Welcome into another episode of Discard for Magic. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron.
I'm your other host, James or Jexic, and today we're welcoming back Bean to round out our trio of drafting things, and we're going to be doing a common draft.
Hi guys, I am happy to be back and ready to dominate the draft once again.
Hey man. Well, I don't think that's how the first two went, but
Pretty sure I won all of them, so I'm just...
He was maybe robbed the last time.
For anybody who hasn't listened to the episodes that we've done before, we did an event draft and we did a champ draft, and now we're doing the commons. And we do it in a snake draft format, so we're going to start with myself for the first pick for this one, then go to James, and then Bean will get 2, and then we'll loop back around. Once a unit's drafted, nobody else can have it on their list, so different from a standard top 10 list.
Do you guys feel like preparing for this one that it was as hard or as challenging as the other ones? I felt like there were so many good commons that I'm like almost going to be fine with my team no matter what you guys pick.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely it shouldn't be too hard to find 10, but I also feel like there's certain factions where I was going through and just picking my favorite commons for each faction, and for some I had trouble picking my favorite, and for some factions I just wrote blah next to them because I just don't like this faction.
Yeah.
Their comments. I was like, I'm not going to be picking any of these.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. I have a feeling that some of Aaron's choices may go uncontested, but we'll see.
Aaron is really the wild card here because he plays a lot different decks than James and I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I feel like while there's tons of good options for the commons, I feel like there's less direction. Like when I was making my list, I didn't feel as strongly about as many units as like I did during the champ draft, or like as many events as I did during the event draft.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The first pick is nice for me in this one because I think the first one I'm going to pick is maybe a contested one that you guys might also try and grab. But after that, I have no idea. I have a couple that I think you guys might take, but I don't like. They're not like crazy high on my list. We'll see how it plays out.
I'm like thinking now, like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna be able to get most of the stuff I want, and then you're probably gonna pick the first like 2 that I really like. And I'm gonna be stuck at third.
Well, you'll at least get to pick 2 in a row, so we'll see how it goes. But I will start us off, and I'm going to pick. Can you guys guess? Who do you think I'm going to pick?
There's 100 commons. I can't guess.
Bean, any guess? First pick of the draft?
Something with recursion, I would guess.
No, good thought, sort of. I mean, I do have some recursion on my list at some point, but no, Magcog, of course, guys.
Oh, Magcog.
Magcog is the best common. There's no debate.
It's a great pick, I will say.
I love Magcog. With the amount of tricks you can do in base decks or deck building, whether it's in deck building with like Phlox copying Magcog and like going all over the battlefield, or in base decks with like modular and hopping back and forth. I've had Magcogs like last the entire game, and I just don't think you can say that about almost any other common. And not only are they lasting the entire game, they're not just like sitting in the corner, they're very active. They are just really fun to play with, and I enjoy every aspect of them.
I guess your wife knows this because she decided to handcraft a plushie for you.
Yeah, I made a comment at one point. I was like, somebody in the Discord was like, this is the cutest Summoner Wars unit, and it definitely should have a plushie. And also, it's just like a super cool unit. And she was like, I could make it. And so she tried to make one. She found it more challenging than she thought it was going to be, but I think it turned out pretty good.
A lot of round edges, I would imagine, for that.
Yeah.
Honestly, Magcog is a great pick for first. Like, that just completely makes the Forge what they are. Like, without Magcog, they would not really exist in the same format they are and be as functional as they are. And like you're saying, yeah, you can just stay alive the whole game. It's crazy, too, how it's like, when the previews come out, it's kind of funny looking back at what people think. I remember talking with Dawood and being like, well, this ability's cool, but it's all cost too ranged. Like, come on. And very happy to be proven wrong. It's awesome in so many ways.
Yeah, it's a great unit, and it won that like popularity contest a while back too, right?
Oh yeah, the March Madness of commons that Tortugatron did.
It doesn't surprise me that it was your first pick.
Extra movement also. I guess Aaron's just going chalk, so I guess we know his strength of that. That that bracket and see which else came in second.
No, I didn't agree with that bracket a whole lot. I did very poor in that March Madness.
So should I go to my first pick now?
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right. So this probably won't surprise too many people who know what I like and what the people like, and that's the Obsidian Dwarves have one of the most influential commons, I'd say, in terms of base deck and deck building, and that's the Oathsworn. We're just laughing because Bean put something else in as my first pick.
You guys weren't supposed to see that. I just assumed.
So the Oathsworn has the same ability as Ragnar, who's a champion, and so you got it on a 1-cost ranged unit that has 3 attack. It's Blood Bond, you hit stuff, and every special you roll, you get a boost, which is really great when Balzar does the same thing and rolls too many boosts and loses boosts. You can get him back with the Oathsworn. But then in the Tundra Orcs deck building version, it just makes Grognak go crazy and really cements that deck and like a whole archetype. And I could see it being useful in other primal decks in the future too. I don't know if it's been used in Filth yet much, but I could see it being useful there too. Just all around a great unit. It's like one of the few range units for the Obsidian Dwarves, so it's just a solid unit, and it's my first pick.
Very solid. That's how I would describe it. Although I don't use it in the deck building as much, so I can see it being really like part of a bustedness, especially with Grognak in deck build.
Yeah, definitely one. I knew that was going to be on James' list. He loves this unit, especially in deck building. Pairing it with For Glory in deck building is a bit disgusting.
Yeah, I didn't realize the ability was the same as Ragnar, but I guess
Yeah, and also Kalik.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but a solid unit.
It's good. It's not anywhere near the top of my list, so
yeah, mine either. Not my favorite unit, but definitely a solid unit.
So now Bean gets 2.
All right, I'm very happy you guys did not snipe any of my stuff. Although Magcog was up there, he was gonna get picked if I got him later in the rounds.
See what you got.
We're going with my favorite units are ones kind of like we were talking about with the Magcog of like they're easy to underestimate. They kind of have a very clear weakness that you then play around, and then because of that, they're really strong in some other manner. And so we're talking with my guy, the paraplegic. We're talking the Horde Clinger, the man, the legend.
I thought this might be James' first pick, to be honest.
Oh, really? No, I mean I do like Clingers, but I mean it's Bean's avatar, so it does not surprise me that he takes this one highly.
I will say I was peeping your guys' avatars just to make sure there weren't any comments over there. Doing a little scouting. No, the Clinger is so good. It's just really powerful. It has a lot of reach. And then you think about the Cave Goblins, right? How does a Swarm faction, when they probably were coming up with Cave Goblins as the thing, like tons of zero-cost units. But how does that even work when you have only 3 moves and 3 attacks? Like, how can this exist? And so you have the Slingers that have extra attacks, but the Clingers are like extra moves, basically, where you get to carry something. And it's such a brilliant way in order to break the 3 moves system, and it gives you so many tools, so much reach. It just feels so good to slingshot this guy all over the board too, and then swap with him. I love them.
So little known fact, Clingers are almost the same as they were in second or first edition for the second summoner Frick for the Cave Goblins.
Oh yeah.
And it was my design. I came up with the Clingers.
Wow, I did not.
That's the only reason he likes them.
It was my whole idea because they were making the second Cave Goblin Summoner, and I was like the theme I came up with for some of the units after Colby had one called the Oath that does more damage when it has damage on it. I was like, maybe these are just the second string of Cave Goblins that for whatever reason didn't make Sneaks' cut. So there's another unit called the Runt that doesn't block line of sight for either team, so you can shoot over it and enemies can shoot through it, and that kind of thing. That unit hasn't made it to second edition, but I'd like to see it back or something similar.
Idea too of it's kind of like the Mountain Vargath being able to shoot through themselves.
Yeah. So it just had this unit occupies space but not sight, and then I thought it'd be interesting to have at some point something that blocks line of sight but doesn't block movement, like a ghost or something that can be moved through and can also fly through stuff. But Horde Clingers are cool. I agree. That's the moral of the story.
Definitely was high on my list. Also, I love a good Clinger.
Yeah, it just unlocks so much for cave goblins that if they didn't if similar to what we're talking about with Magcog, like if they did not have it, they would be just a much weaker and less interesting faction. And Horde Clinger is absolutely that with the cave goblins.
And the other thing, at least in base deck, is that it's your only other way to get like a 2 melee for your attacks and for like enrage the horde and stuff like that without boosts, without blarf or whatever, so.
Yeah. Or with Pylon, these guys could be beasts. Huge fan of the design, huge fan of parent weakness. That's actually a very big strength and opens up a lot for you.
What's your next pick, Bean?
We're going to stick on the train of my favorite units, which are ones that have a weakness, but then are like completely overtuned in some other way in order to compensate for it. We're going to go with my favorite faction unit in the faction, which is the Wolfsbane Brooch. I love this guy. If you think about it, he's a 5 health, 3 attack that is able to force things and do 1 damage to them, for only 2 cost. That's pretty good, right? And yeah, they have to tune him down in one way to make it so that he can only move 1 in order to justify how strong that is, because that's really strong. Yeah, he's actually 2 attack, but most of the time he is 3 attack if he's around Sunderbed. It's a really powerful unit, and yes, he's slow and you have to play around that, but that's what makes it really interesting. And there are ways to play around it. You can use Varn to move him over, you can get a ramming advance to be able to move him a little bit more, you can marshal forces. There's ways to compensate for this weakness that allow it to really show strength, and the strength is so powerful. Just him up on the front of a gate of some faction that doesn't do a lot of damage, he's gonna live for a while and he's gonna do a lot to that faction. So I just love the guy. He's awesome. He's got a wolf on his shoulder. Come on now.
Solid pick. Definitely a good unit. One that's really interesting. Not where I thought you were going to go when you had that lead up. I thought you were going to go with a different Gargrath unit, but we'll see if that one appears later.
We shall see.
My second pick is going to be similar to one I picked for the events, in that this unit has a solid stat line. So at worst, it's a decent stat line, but at best, it's your best unit or their own best unit, and that's got to be the Mind Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Solid unit.
Very good.
Just like the Oathsworn, they have a solid stat line of the 3 range and 2 health for 1 magic, so they can hit decently hard. So they're often copying some ability and then having a better stat line than that unit has. Like, you got a Magcog, you got a Brute. I don't know if it works with Brutes, but the general idea is that she can do cool stuff and have a good stat line while doing it.
You got a Clinger?
You gotta...
Does work.
It does work. She also copies additional abilities that units have. So if you have a machinist if she can get close enough to a machinist that has moto boots on, she can do that too. Or if someone's got a Hellforged axe, a Hellforged weapon, she gets those abilities and she can be very deadly. So that's my favorite one, or one of my favorite ones is the Mind Witch.
Arbiter of War. I mean, come on now. That's a huge, great one to steal. Mind Witch is definitely a great one. It's like we talked about with Albus last time, of just how variable it is and how every single Breakers game feels unique in that, because you never know what a Mind Witch is going to become this time. Could be something super cool, or it could just be a Wind Mage, which is already really good, or it could be a Wind Archer. That's pretty cool too. It's just a really solid stat line that then be amplified in so many other ways.
Yeah, it's definitely a great unit. I definitely had it on my list, like you were saying, being that ability to be super variable depending on the matchup. And so that makes it kind of unique from all the other common units. But even in its base deck by itself, even if you don't have any good, say you're playing Tundra Orcs. Yeah. And you don't have any good people to copy all 3 of the units in your base deck, whether it's Deceivers on your own turn to get force damage, or whether it's Wind Mages or Wind Archers. They're all good units to copy, and Mind Witches are never a bad play.
I will point out, you guys are sticking with the ranged units right now, where I'm full melee, so feel pretty strong going against you.
That just means you're going to lose the approach.
No. Klinger's going to get up there somehow.
All right, I got to now make some decisions.
You get 2 of them.
Oh, yeah, I get 2, which Makes this a little easier. Yeah, we're going to go that one for sure, I think. And this might be an underrated common, I think. But it's one of my favorites, both in deck building and in base, and that's the Rogue. I love the Rogue.
Yeah.
That's actually what I thought you might have picked first.
Yeah?
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be up there. Yeah.
The Wayward Rogue is just so good. I love like the diagonal attack, and that's its only ability. But coming out for 0 cost with 2 attack, diagonal, just gives you another avenue to get like basically that through one lane, get that extra attack on it. It is both really effective in the base deck of Wayfarers and super effective in deck building. It makes my deck building deck sing with my like Hellforged Axe. The Rogue can just sneak into corners and take out people. I was just playing some games in the tournament against the Forged, and the Forged is so much harder to play against, or so much harder for the Forged to play against Cave Goblins when there's rogues in the deck, because those corners are hard for them to keep blocked. They essentially have to come at you with like 6 units around the Inventor.
I literally lost one of my deck building games because I'm forged and they were Vlox and copied a rogue and hit me that way.
Yeah.
It's great. The rogue is so strong and good. One of the best 0 cost units easily out there. Klinger is my favorite, but anyone arguing for rogue, I'm not gonna argue with you too much.
The next one I'm gonna go with is gonna be a little bit different unit. We're gonna get some recursion up in here, and I'm gonna put the Scavenger on the board.
Whoa, not the recursion I thought you were gonna go.
Nah, this is the best recursion in the common game. I love Scavengers. For 1 cost, getting a 3 melee, 2 health unit that can bring a unit back, and any structure back. Like in the base deck, you're bringing back Sparks, you're bringing back Biters, you're bringing back Rust Riders, you're bringing back all sorts of goodness. And throughout the game, you feel like even if you lose it to different abilities, you still have that ability to come back and bring back your big hitting pieces because of these Scavengers. Scavengers are what make the Sand Goblins tick almost, because without them, all their ways that they burn through their cards would be much more hurtful to the deck. Like they would have no way to get back Sparks or these different aspects of their deck that they need. I love recursion in general, and if you throw it into deck building, I've seen Prophet do some nasty things with Sand Scavenger Vlox decks where you just recursion all the time. Vlox is kind of the king of copying commons in deck building. Gets all sorts of fun abilities, but Sand Scav is one of the best.
Yeah, it really does make Sand Goblins. I mean, we all love Sand Goblins and how weird they are and how it really doesn't make sense how they work, but Sand Scavenger is like a huge reason for why they do. I think that was maybe the first 2 health, 3 melee common. I might be wrong on that, but that's a great stat line, and it really is just so fragile that it can just like it's so important to keep them alive, but really difficult, and so it is limiting in how much you can recur, which I think is a good design.
Yeah, Scavengers are really good, and like you said, like getting back parapets and stuff in deck building is also a really cool use for them. So they can do a lot. All right, so it's me now.
Yep, back to you, James.
Right in the middle.
This is what I've been thinking about lately because I kept playing the Eternal Council, and I've lost games because I discarded just one of these. At worst case, you may want to put one to the bottom of the deck, but otherwise you got to hold on to all of these suckers, and that's a Citadel Advisor. They've got 2 important abilities. Intel, which when you move them, you get to draw a card. And then they also have Warn, which lets you put a card at the bottom of your deck, which is great for smoothing out your draws, but also that it then forces your summoner 1 space. And there's, forcing in this game is generally very good. But forcing your summoner, a very important piece, is great. Very few things force summoners. It's like brutal force, and you can force your own summoner only, but you can use it to get Edia into position to attack or have her go hide behind a gate or another unit. This is a very flexible, very powerful unit, and I think it's cool that it was designed as a Citadel Advisor so that it's useful in deck building for Sarah Eldwin. It's the only 1 cost Citadel unit, so it's really good there too. So I think it's a very cool unit and one of my favorites.
I mean, that ability is great for Sarah as well too, and being able to force her when she has no real movement tricks too. And yeah, it's a great card and really shows you how powerful even like a 2 ranged unit can be. I agree with you, super powerful. I'm claiming this one for the goats also too.
An honorary Vargath or a former Vargath in the Citadel.
A Vargath not of the mountains.
But of the very tall buildings.
Of the books.
That's it. Yeah, great call. Great call. All right, over to me with my double dip.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I am going to. Oof, so many good ones left on the board. Okay, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna stick with my kind of weirdos that have a drawback, and I'm gonna go with our old friend, the Bug Biter.
Ooh.
Second Sand Goblin.
How does this work? How is this?
It seems terrible. You read it and you're like, well, what is going on here?
It's so good, and it's so like because it's so cheap too. Like you can always play it and get use out of it, and you don't feel bad if it just dies. But he just damages himself immediately.
I think the best thing about him, yeah, probably is just that you can like get behind people's summoners and just pin them, and just it's really annoying.
Yeah, super annoying, and that art is just like so thematic for what it is. He's just a guy. He's a bug for some reason. I don't know why he's a bug, but he is a biter, and yeah, I love him. He just is trying to achieve greatness by flying and crashing every single time.
Yeah, this one was on my list too. I like the bug biter a lot. It's just the silliness of just sending him out and doing 1 damage and then getting him back and then doing another 1 damage and
Yeah. Recurring him with the sand scavenger, getting
yeah,
more.
yeah.
or even detonating him with some wrench rats on his back,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
or even using a mortar to kill him with some wrench rats on his back, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of weird plays with bug biters.
It's crazy how sand goblins just have so much direct damage and they are not a fire deck of any kind, but they just do a lot of that. Like they're one of the most direct damagey decks.
Mm-hmm.
And Bugbiter unlocks a lot of that for him. Good job, little Bugbiter. I'm proud of him. I got him on my team. All right, and my next one here. This one might surprise you guys, but this was my absolute favorite when I first started playing, and still great to this day, even though I don't play this faction a ton. But man, the Rhinoceros is just so much fun and so good. Immediately has great stats. Once you put a boost on him, has an incredible ability, can get almost anywhere, can do damage. I guess I realize I have a lot of direct damage on my guys, but the Rhino is just so good and so powerful and really like underrated, I think, in terms of just how powerful he can be, because there's just a lot of good stuff in Savannah Elves, but he's definitely my favorite from there.
Yeah, solid unit. Wasn't crazy high on my list because I don't know. Savannah Elves units are also solid. I didn't look that deep into them because
It's hard to pick your favorite out of all of them.
they're all
Yeah.
just pretty good. But yeah, the Rhino is a great unit and definitely has a lot of utility in both deck building and base decks.
Yeah, it's great art again, also, and it's just totally, as a first-time player, like putting all the boosts on it and then getting lots of this, so much destruction out of it is just a great feeling. Also, back then, I thought that you could trample over something multiple times, so if that played a part in it, I thought it was really cool that you could do so much unlimited damage.
It's a common thought, I think,
Mhm.
with a casual reading of the card.
Yeah.
My next pick is yet another 3/2 ranged unit,
You've only been ranged so far.
but it's one of the most impactful and best units in the game, but in one of the weakest decks currently, and that's the Luminous Scout.
Nice.
Ooh, this was on my list.
It's the glue that holds the Shimmer Sea Fae together as best as it can. It's just like this rickety ship that the Luminous Scout is just like driving, whatever else is going on.
Yeah.
It's got 2 abilities that are both very impactful. The first is allows them to draw from the bottom of your draw pile, which seems weird until you read what like the sisters do, and they go to the bottom of the deck when they are destroyed. So she gets the sisters back, but also The other ability is that after she attacks, you can summon another unit. And then a lot of these other units in the deck have like on summon abilities like the Swarm or your Tidebreakers, even your Oracles do something when they come into play, or another Scout. So you can just do some really cool plays. If your gates are in the right spot, you can attack multiple times from the same lane. And it's all because it's Luminous Scout. It's like a renewed hope on a stick, almost. It's just a great unit and very impactful.
Big fan of the Luminous Scout over here.
Yeah, and it does something that like no other common can do, and very few cards in the game can do, and that's like summoning during the attack phase. That's such a unique ability, and when you throw in a gate you just played down, or like different aspects that Shimmersea Fae can really lend themselves to, it just makes for a really fun card.
Yeah, I feel like every single person who plays the Fae immediately sees like this is an awesome combo card that can do so much. And then there's other things about the deck that, could maybe be tuned, but no one ever wants to touch the Scout. The Scout is perfect, and we all love it. So, very, very good job on the Scout.
All right, back to me. Double picks.
Don't pick the ones I want.
I'm gonna go. I think I'll save that one. I don't think you guys will take that one. I'm gonna go with the Ice Golem as my first pick.
Nice.
Ice Golem is such a great common. It also shares that slow ability like the Brute has, but it is a gate in itself, so you can summon off of it. It lends itself a lot to the Polar Dwarf deck, in which they can heal it, and they can use it to boost the attack of other units, and they can use it to slam into their enemy units and deal damage, or fling them up just for fun to lock people down. They are just the polarizing force, so to speak, in the polar decks. They're a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, they're definitely such an awesome card. Another one that just has an incredible ability, so they had to like nerf its movement in order for it to just be fair, and it's totally works as it is. I love the guy.
All right, for my next pick, I think I'm going to go in a bit of a different direction. A twisted direction, so to speak. And I'm going to go with the Tentacle Mutant.
Ooh.
First mutant off the board. The Tentacle Mutant just opens up so many different aspects, and much like the Rogue, which I picked earlier, allows you to attack from different angles, get those extra attacks in. But unlike the Rogue, has 5 health, which is insane. And so is just long-lasting and can really terrorize your opponents from behind gates, from behind other units, from off to the side, you add a little bit of range because it has the reach ability. So it gives you a lot of different aspects to attack your opponents, and it's a lot of fun to play with.
And it never goes away. You think you kill the Tentacle Mutant and you're safe, but they'll get it right back with with the Demagogue. So
recursion in a different way.
Yeah.
The recurred is what you got.
All right, James.
All right. Well, Beans wanted to spoil this one earlier, but I think I'm going to take it. Not that you guys are ever going to take it anytime soon, but I think I will break up my range units with the Tundra Fighter. Tundra Fighter is an interesting common because in the base deck, it's probably the 3rd best common in the deck, or even the 4th. It's often when you discard for magic, because that frenzy ability is just not that reliable. It happens 1 1/3 time. You have to roll a squiggle after you attack and hope you get to move and attack again. But it's one of the few ways they can steal spaces in the deck. And with Brutal Force, you can like hit the same target multiple times, which is cool. And then when you come to deck building, it just becomes a completely maddening powerhouse with the Hellforged Axe. Like it's not even fair. It's one of the few things that's keeping my Grognak deck afloat, I think, is Tundra Fighters with Hellforged Axe. And you can even combine them with For Glory, and then they're rolling 6 dice. And then they have a pretty good chance of getting at least 2 symbols to stay alive. And then you can just keep rolling the frenzies, and they just go off. And like they're actually scarier than Brub, and they cost 1 magic. So I'm going with Tundra Fighter.
It is so wild in deck building, just how powerful that guy is. And you'll have so many boosts, too, in order to like, reroll and reroll.
I've lost way more games to the Tundra Fighter than I have to Brub.
Yeah.
The one time I got the turn 1 kill, it was against another Tundra Orc player, and it was because of the Tundra Fighter with an axe. So I've played hundreds of games with deck built Tundra Orcs, but one time I did win the first turn, and it was because of that card.
Yeah, it's always the craziest Tundra Orcs replays, both base deck and deck building that involve a Tundra Fighter just going off. Sometimes he's gonna 1 in 3 chance.
Yeah, I mean 1 in 3 is actually pretty high. That's pretty good odds. That's like the same odds as like not killing a unit with like a 2-life unit with a 3 range attack. It's about a 1 in 3. Like, it happens all the time.
Happens all the time. Especially on your team with the ranged units. All right, over to me for my 5th pick.
Go for it.
I am feeling great because I had 5 units that I really wanted on my team, and you guys didn't get any of them.
That's because they're bad units.
All right. This one here is going to make all your units a little bit worse. He is my old friend, the sadist, the arbiter of justice.
Oh, I had that one I was thinking of picking that up next, actually.
Yeah. I play high elves like very weirdly aggressive, and arbiter of justice is a huge part of that. Is very strong, like 5 health, 3 melee. Another one that is actually that, like, and then can be 4 attack, right, with the war. And just is so strong. And then, yeah, it has a downside, but that downside also affects all of you guys. And it can be nullified with Albus, it can be healed off with the Temple Priest. There's lots of ways to play around it. It can be extra tanky with the piece. I love this guy. He does a lot of damage and is just a thorn in the side, honestly. I mean, look at him for the other guy.
Yeah, definitely a good one. Not one that was on my list. Not one I was really thinking about a whole lot, to be honest. But it's definitely impactful. Being around that Arbiter of Justice, especially with certain decks, can be a pain, for sure.
How I came around thinking about Arbiter of Justice for this was that I was thinking like High Elves are like a common-centric deck in a way. And the piece is not fun, but Justice is fun. He just gets in your face and dispenses damage. Like Arbiter of Peace is obviously one of the most powerful commons in the game, but it's like I'm not gonna pick it for this. It's one of my favorites, So
Yeah.
so I was thinking Justice.
Peace is definitely stronger overall, but yeah, I agree with Justice is definitely way more fun. My just like overall strategy for this too, because there were so many good commons and commons that I like, is I'm not really caring about power level. Like I could pick what I think are the strongest things, but I'm just gonna pick the ones that are my favorite, and they're strong because I love using them. So
all right, what you got for us next? Or do we want to do a halfway recap?
let's do a little recap here. Aaron with the first pick went with Magcog, the Wayward Rogue, the Sand Scavenger, the Ice Golem, and the Tentacle Mutant. And then Jexic went with the Oath Sworn, the Mind Witch, the Citadel Advisor, the Luminous Scout, and the Tundra Fighter. And then Champion Bean went with the Horde Slinger, the Wolfsbane Brute, the Bug Biter, the Rhino, and the Arbiter of Justice. All right, and then now I gotta go with my 6th pick. And now I have to actually make some choices, because I had my complete pickings of all of my favorites, and now I gotta go with some weirdos. I'm gonna go with another just big beefy boy. The one that you don't want to get bonked by. I'm going with Smasher.
I think that's just Smasher. He doesn't have like an extra word to him, right?
I know.
It's Smasher.
It's weird seeing all of these things just like with the full title and then just Smasher.
He could be a Tundra Smasher, honorary.
Nope, just Smasher. What a like cool like negative ability that they gave him in order to justify his awesome stat line. Like something that is totally nullifies him in a certain way, but also gives him kind of this weird tankiness against certain factions.
Yeah.
Like Phoenix Elves or stuff like that. And like he's just hits like a brick. Like what else hits for 4 as easily as he does?
Yeah, I mean at that point nobody, but now Royal Warriors and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Beast Riders, don't be hating.
True. Beast Riders. Coordinated eager adventurers. He fits my team of just super strong guys that have to be nerfed in some way. And he can hit for 6, 4 glory. Let's not forget about that. Big fan of this.
Solid unit for sure. Just a big oaf that you got to take down every now and then,
Yeah.
All right, James, what you got for us?
This is tough. We're getting into the range of like things that I know are just like kind of good and cool. I think I'm gonna go with the Vinemancer.
Oh, if I thought I could last one more round and get it. No.
Vinemancer from the Swamp Orcs.
It was high on my list.
She's really good. She does a really good Wind Mage impression. She pulls stuff around, even your summoner. Protect Muglug to pull things into Muglug's range. It has a wider range than I think the Wind Mage at 3 spaces, but it can't really pull enemy champions or summoners, but it can pull enemy commons. And it takes a boost, and you don't necessarily need to attack with it. That's the crazy thing, is as long as Vanmancer has a boost, you can use that ability. So if you have ways to accrue boosts on her, they can just kind of do cool things later on. Like, it's also a good one in deck building. I've seen people use them with like fungal dwarves and just getting a bunch of boosts and having one Vinemancer sit in the middle of the board and just pull things around the whole game. It's got cool art, so it's a fun card. I like Vinemancer, and it's another melee unit, so I'm not all range now.
She has to pull things from range in order to attack.
Yeah.
This makes my decision a bit more difficult. Vinemancer, like you said, great unit. One I was definitely considering. Well, for my first one, I'm going to go with the next one on my list, and that's going to be the second mutant, the Horror Mutant.
Interesting.
I like this common unit a lot. Nullifies some of what your enemy can do with its ability, but also it just hits pretty hard with 3 melee, and it's got 4 health. It just lasts quite a bit and always feels like a very useful unit, and for me, very enjoyable to use.
I like the Horror Mutant a lot. I like all the mutants. I think you can correct me if you're wrong, you guys are the playtesters, but they gave them all abilities that are like slightly overtuned just because you have to kill something in order to summon them. And so all of their abilities are really cool and strong. And Horror Mutant is definitely one of them.
The Filth, going back to even first edition, had that same aspect of like, well, you gotta use essentially 2 units for it, so you get a stronger unit and you get more cool abilities to use.
You went mutants back to back.
Yeah, I did. Not direct back-to-back picks, but... And I think there's so many options I could go with this next one. I think I'm going to go a little bit in left field, and people in the comments might say I'm throwing, but I know both of you guys like this unit also. I know it's probably coming up for Bean, and I don't think I'll get another chance at it. So I'm going to go with the Glory Caller.
Dang it. My next pick.
The Glory Caller is a fantastic unit. It seems unassuming. You're like, 1 melee, 4 health. This is garbage. Like, what are you doing here? But that one movement you can get in that summon phase to force one of your units 1 space is crazy as the Vargrath. You can open up ramming advances. You can open up extra moves to get like Sunderbed in the fray. You can get brutes into place. You can get people out of summoning spots so you can summon again. You can get all sorts of fun aspects. You can get people into Varn's range so Varn can pull them, and like there are so many different plays that you can do with this, and it opens up like all my favorite turns in Vargrath are using Glory Callers to just push up or do some fun movement aspect with the forces or get things into place that just like click real nice, and I love it.
I love them too, and just all of that you said is true. Plus the fact that they're not actually a 1/4 most of the time; they're a 2/4 if Sunderved's ability is right there, which it easily can be. And that's a 2/4 for 1, which is underpriced for what it is. Plus, I think like we were just talking about the Citadel Advisor being so strong for its ability to force. Any deck would love to have a Glory Caller. Even the 1/4 version, the not buffed attack version, Eternal Council would love to have a Glory Caller. The Fungal Dwarves would love to have a Glory Caller. The Shimmer Sea Fae would love to have... Like, so many decks would love to just have a little additional movement that doesn't cost for the movement and opens up so many different abilities. And especially Vargath love it with all of their formation stuff that they need. Huge fan of the Glory Caller.
All right, James.
I'm just laughing because I wrote boo next to this one, but it's such a good unit.
I think I know what one you're talking about, and I'll never pick it.
True Seeker.
Yep. That's what I thought you were talking about. 100%.
It's from the Shadow Elves. And its ability to just come out and attack with 3 dice and then force itself 2 spaces afterwards is insane. It allows you to attack multiple units from the same vector, or even just like protect your summoner, protect other units. When it gets down to 1 attack after it's in play, it still has 3 health, and so it's like a threat that your opponent wants to kill because they want you to bounce it again. And you can use it to just hit your own gate and get more boosts. I've seen so many disgusting things with this, and it's one of the craziest cards in the game. And it's what I singled out for probably being nerfed, and all the Shadow Elves players are like, no, please don't nerf it. You're onto something when they're like, but what would I do without it? I don't know. Play other units. So like I said, it's fun because it has a lot of good plays, but it's also like one of the most frustrating units to play against in the game, I'd say, aside from like Deceivers or Peace or something,
Yeah. It might be the strongest common in the game. It's super powerful, and the feint ability is what makes it really frustrating to play against, because that ability to just get out of dodge after you hit something real hard is it's annoying. And if you don't have the range to deal with it, sometimes you can't even hit back. So
someone like me could even use it aggressively, like force it forward and then use glinting speed to replace it and then attack from a weird position. Like it's an insane unit.
If you want to be like the complete opposite, you can basically treat it as a 3 melee that shoots from range, basically, because it just goes up and then comes right back.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a thing that is, it just looking at the card itself is balanced in that there would be only 4 of them in your deck, and that ability would only trigger when you summon it 4 times. But the fact that it's in Shadow Elves and they can just keep doing it, keep getting it with tomes and things like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's such a good unit that people use tome to get it.
Right. Like that's what makes it unbalanced, not the actual card itself. It's just like its environment.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say I think in deck building it hasn't shown up in other decks, so I think it's somewhat balanced. It's just the environment that makes it so good. Kind of like how the old Bloom Warrior was so good in Deepwood Groaks,
Yeah.
That it's the other surrounding abilities that make it so good.
Yeah, it's the fact that you can see 16 to 18 of them a game in some crazy games against Shadow Elves, and that ability to just pull it back into the hand and keep playing them is crazy.
All right, is it over to me?
Go for it.
All right. This is a unit I was actually just talking with Jexic about. It was featured very prominently in a game we played about, an hour ago, 2 hours ago? It is the Royal Guardian, which I know a lot of people don't like as much with the Phoenix Elves. It's not the fanciest or the splashiest, and he doesn't get the buff from Holios. That's not the most important thing, but I think people care about that. But he is just like such a powerful little tank, and another one where you look at it, you're like, it's 2 cost, and he
One attack.
only has 4 health, and he has 1 attack. But it's really important to have that and the engage. Really important. Another one to think about, like, they immediately learned from the mistake of the Vanguards. Like, when you have a summoner that needs to attack, basically, you can't let something just poach on their gate. And so the Royal Guardian solves that. He pushes things away that then you can attack. He also is just like a really effective, fragile tank. And I think that's so cool for this deck of Phoenix Elves, which is really thematically like glass cannon, but also really good at defense, that even their tank is like 4 health rather than 5 health, and is still very effective at what he does. I'm just a fan. I'm a fan of the 1 melee that then does the direct damage. A lot of direct damage on my team.
Yeah, Royal Guardians are cool. I think they're kind of underrated. People kind of sleep on them sometimes, and I think they're cool.
Yeah, they can toss around some champs, which is always fun. Being a 1/4, I feel like people overlook them a bit, but they can be really strong, especially for setting up like Mal's attack and doing different aspects of the deck, but not one I had on my list.
That's all right. I think I'm in the minority on how much I like them, but I do really like them. All right, and we're going to go on to the next one. This one here, I know both you guys are big fans of this guy. He is a 3 health 2 cost. He is the Eager Adventurer.
Ooh, that was one I was going to take next.
He's very eager to get across the board. I really like that you can have something that not beefy, be 2 cost, and be totally worth it.
Yeah, the fact that you can force any time during your turn is really what pushes it over the edge.
Totally. Anytime, every time we've done these drafts, I feel like the anytime always comes up and is always helpful. We've seen it with Varn, we've seen it with Slip By as an ability, like things you can do at any time. Just give you so much of a variability, and the amount of things you can do with an Eager Adventurer are crazy. You could attack, then force forward, and something else attacks from the side. You could attack, then steal the gate spot. You could attack, then get all the way to the Seek the Horizon spot. Like, there's just so much you could do. Plus, you could just move for 4 if you want to do that. That's pretty good too. Big fan of that guy. Hits like a brick. Hits like 2 bricks when he's got coordinate up.
I kept looking at Eager Adventure and struggling to pick between that and Spirit Voyager because I think the two of them work so well together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Because you can like force up and then jump to them with the Spirit Voyager, so that's why I was having trouble picking between the two of them. So I just didn't pick them for a while. We talked about Wayfarers before having great champions, but they also have really good comments.
Yeah, and Eager Adventure also in deck building can be such a menace if you like pair it with like Border Archer or different like entangle it with Border Archer. It can
100%.
be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Yep. Or even like just putting him out in Vargath like you did with an axe and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can do all 3. I mean, you can tangle it with a Border Archer, throw an axe on it, and have it in Mountain Vargath. You can be chucking dice on dice on dice.
Please.
The next one is a really weird unit to me, but it's very good. And I think it kind of defines the way this faction plays as well, or it's one of these 2 units, but I'm going to pick the Ares Steward.
Ooh.
Which is a 2/5 that has Worthy, which if it's next to your summoner, it can hit on specials. Because like people talk a lot about the range game defining a lot of games and how you're going to approach things. I think the Ares Steward are probably one of the big reasons that Avians have one of the best range games in the game. Between that and Sky Assault and the other events you can use, and having the sages potentially, but even without sages, they hit pretty well, and they have 5 health. Very few range units can just like stand toe to toe with the Ares Steward.
Is it only them and the Citadel Archers that are 5 health ranged units?
I think so, and I definitely would take them over Citadel Archers because you don't have to keep discarding cards and stuff. So
What? I will say, because of the names are way too similar, I thought you were talking about the Sentinel when you first started talking, and I was like, wait.
I always forget what Sentinels are called. I'm like, oh, those steadfast guys, whatever they're called. No, I'm thinking of Steward, the guys the white ones that shoot.
The Pelicans.
Ones that tell you, are you worthy?
I'm never worthy, but I love them. I do love them.
Yeah, solid unit for sure. And when you pair them with some of their champs too, they get even more fun. Get Cyruk out there and use that ability with even more dice. It's a blast.
I think too, if just like we're talking a little about design and stuff before, and the birds are all about this like kind of like flock that moves together kind of. And they don't tell you explicitly like birds move together, but because of the Ares Steward's ability, you just like naturally start playing the deck that way, which I think is a really cool way to design a card and a deck and just make it so synergistic.
Mm-hmm. All right, back to me. I got one for sure that I'm going to throw down. My second one, I'm more up in the air on. A lot of ways I could go with it, but this one, I know you guys like this card probably, but I don't know if you guys considered it for this. It's probably another common that's pretty overlooked, and I'm going to go with the Horde Slinger.
Nice.
Horde Slinger has like the worst stat line in the game: 1 health, 2 range. But man, does this card hit. That extra attack, especially when paired with like Enrage the Horde, attacking again, or I've seen and had turns where you enrage the Horde and you have like 4 Horde Slingers out there and you're like, well, I'm going to wipe everything you had. Sorry about it. And then you put it in like deck building with like Brutal Force and you can assembly line people and just push them down the line with your Horde Slingers.
Provided you don't miss.
Yeah, provided you don't miss. If you miss, everything goes kaput. Or you have sneaks go in and clean up that miss and push it the next way.
Yeah.
but they're a lot of fun, and I just really enjoy them both in base deck and in deck building.
Another like unit that breaks the rules of how many attacks you get or how many movement you get with the cave goblins. Like just an awesome design and awesome unit that is really powerful.
Now my next pick, I don't know what to do.
Don't pick mine.
I don't think any of the like 3 or 4 I'm looking at are going to be yours. I think I'll go here. I don't think either of you guys are going to take this, but I'm going to pick it just in case because I really enjoy this unit. I think, again, it might be a unit that is underwhelming for a lot of people, but I'm going to go with the Undead Archer.
Nice.
I know a lot of people love the carriers in the Fallen Kingdom deck, but I think the Archer shines above both the carriers and the warriors. It's my favorite undead unit in that deck, and it's really not close. Like the other 2 units are both good, and I really enjoy both of them. But the Archer, with its ability to shift in attack phase, even in move phase of purges and stuff, when things are getting blown up and destroyed, you could shift archers into spots that you just can't do that with almost any other unit in the game, and that just makes for a lot of fun turns, a lot of combo aspects, and a lot of different moves that you can work out and find different places to break in through your enemy's defenses that you wouldn't think was possible.
Yeah, it's maybe the biggest reach in terms of beating anything. Yeah, in the game, I feel like it can travel all the way across the board.
Definitely can surprise you, and it does really weird things with purge and everything else. So yeah, it's a crazy unit.
Yeah, it being 2 health too is like it's low, but it's a positive in the Fallen Kingdom, which I think is such a cool thing that it's like, well, you want it to be low health because you can purge it, you can carrier attack it in order to infect it, you can
Have it die to a Hellforge weapon attack, etc.
you could blood summon a warrior off it and immediately get a boost, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's just so many different aspects to the deck that I don't think just don't really click if you don't have archers in the deck. And purge turns with archers may be one of my favorite things in the game.
I've got my next one. This is also kind of an infamous unit, but what I appreciate about it is how simple its design is. I think it's basically like 2 lines of text. You can move or instead of attacking, or attack instead of moving, and that's the Guild Machinist.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, I think it's very cheesy that like you can put hand cannon and moto boot on it. If I could redesign the cloaks at all, I would probably just make it so you can't put hand cannon on it, but it'd still be a very cool unit then, because you can moto boot into place with like Out of Shadows and just get all kinds of crazy plays going. But even beside that, like it's a great thing for Vlox to copy, obviously, but it also has only 4 health, so there is some counterplay to it, provided it's not all the way tucked in a corner. But you've also got Smoke Bomb and other things to keep it alive. So I think it's a real important unit, much like I was saying, like with Ares Steward and some of these other ones that I think kind of define that faction more so than the other commons in the deck.
Yeah, great unit. I was just talking with Davud about the first ever game that we played when I introduced him to it, and I was birds and he was cloaks, and he's totally in love with this unit that can break the game in this certain way, and it's not broken, and it can be broken when you put everything on it, but when you are just playing it for the first time, the normal Vlox stuff with it, it's just awesome. All right, over to me.
Yep.
I am looking at my team and I'm realizing that I have not a single ranged unit on my team. So
That's because you hate range units.
I kind of do. Lakers player, I am not. So I'm going to pick a ranged unit, and this is maybe the most melee ranged unit of any ranged unit. I'm going to pick the Enigma Sage from the Eternal Council, who is just a big, beefy guy, and he wants to get up there and do a little side damage, either to the person he's attacking or to somebody else. And like James was saying about putting stuff in your deck in order to help your drawing, and yeah, he's just really strong. 4 health, 3 attack, ranged. Don't even have to get up there. You can just hang back and do it, and then when you do get up there, you go unga bunga. Like, I'm a fan.
Yeah, solid unit for sure. Definitely one that is like very essential to the Eternal Council deck, much like the Advisor, but the Sage is your damage output in that deck, and
Yeah.
even from range without their ability, they're a force.
And then I will go with my last one, I'm gonna go with a very memorable ranged unit. Maybe not the strongest, but another one that fits the theme of things that have a defined weakness, but then they overtune it in other ways. So I'm gonna go with the Frost Shaman, and
Interesting.
I've got
What about Tundra
two.
Orcs?
We got so many Tundra Orcs commons being taken in this draft. 2 on my team, 1 on James.
And you're not going to see the last on my team.
No Tundra Charger for the last pick?
Come on. Definitely a very memorable ability in that it doesn't hit if it doesn't get a squiggle. And let me tell you, every single time I completely whiff, I get 3 ranged sides just with no. So it's like it wants to taunt you into. You would have hit, you would have had a perfect hit, but you're just a weird unit because of that. But it is really strong. I mean, being only 1 cost and having 4 health and 3 range is really strong. Like, that is the same stat line as the Enigma Sage I just took, and so that's a 2 cost. So totally worth it, and a really good ranged unit, even though it will just completely whiff sometimes, and so it goes.
For my last pick, I'm going to pick another Obsidian Dwarf unit. I started with one, I'm going to end with one, and it's going to be the Ember Guard.
Nice.
Nice.
Like, I couldn't imagine playing the Obsidian Dwarf base deck without this card. It's so essential to protecting him and protecting his life total throughout the game. Almost at the end of every turn, you want to put an Ember Guard in front of Balzar so he's not getting hit, or on his side so that he's not getting hit. And not only that, but it allows you to get extra attacks from one flank, even without chains involved. But you can, shoot and then have an Ember Guard pop up, hit with an axe or whatever. And it's just a very versatile, very cool unit. Just fits the whole theme. You can sometimes spend your boost to try to get Rage to go on future turns, on purpose, or if it's the end of the game, you can damage your summoner and just go all in. It's a really cool unit and one of my favorites.
Yeah. Big fan. Big fan of Burgard.
Yeah, solid unit for sure. Wasn't on my list, but definitely a unit that's essential to that deck. All right.
Last pick of the draft before the honorable mentions.
Last pick, eh? What to take? What to take?
Tundra Charger.
Yeah, not the Tundra Charger. I got a lot of options that I'm picking from, and that is not one of them. I think I'm gonna go a little. Ooh, do I want to do that? I think I'm gonna go a little bit out of left field, and I'm gonna take the Wrench Rat.
Ooh. And goblins.
I love Wrench Rats. From their ability that allows them to just be a bomb waiting to explode under anything you want, your opponent, your stuff, whatever you feel like. They're just like a 0-cost unit that you can throw out there, get an extra attack in, and they can also help you shoot from the same lane if you drop them under something after shooting there. They also can be used with Detonate and with Bug Biters and all these fun aspects. They just they do a lot of explosions and they do a lot for that deck.
The reason Supergate works, at least one of the reasons.
Yeah, and the reason Detonate, their epic event, works basically, instead of it just being a pure value card, it is like a mega value card that also does a ton of bomb damage. Good call on the Wrench Rat. The crossbow holding Wrench Rat.
Yeah, they're solid. I like them a lot, and they're kind of like a silly unit, much like the Bug Biter is. A lot of that deck has a little bit of silliness to it, but I really enjoy it.
All right, we want to do honorable mentions before the recap, or?
Yeah, you do
Yeah.
honorable mention.
All right, Aaron, all you.
All right, gotta pick another one, eh? I'm gonna go for the Blast Forged Cog as my honorable mention.
Nice.
This is, as with all the cogs are great, but this is one of my favorites, second to only the Mag Cog, just because of when you're pressuring your opponent with the Forge, which you often are, that's what the Forge like to do, they are the ones that keep that damage coming, because even if they place a blocker, you can just drop that blocker with a Blast Forge Cog, get an extra damage on their summoner, and they're back in another problem position. They are a lot of fun in that aspect, and they have a lot of attack. 3 base, and they can have 4 with a workshop. It's a very fun unit, and has a lot of explosions also.
Yeah, big fan of that. And it also is fire themed with the fire deck, and it is Like you're constantly defending against the Forge, like you're saying, and so they counter that. Yeah, huge fan of them.
For my honorable mention, I'm thinking of taking something from a faction that's been controversial lately, and I don't even play that much myself, but I'm going to go with the Sacral Priest.
That was on my short list still. I like Sacral Priest a lot. There might be my favorite CO unit.
When we did the episode with Tortugatron and Shmeeby, they were both saying that that's their favorite unit. So the fact that it stacks is crazy, because it doesn't grant an ability strong or anything. It just allows you to get up to like 5 or 6 dice with Daymar, and suddenly he's just dealing death from the back row with his ladies back there. So I don't know. It's a cool unit in a deck that is not my favorite, and also like it plays around with having units damaged, which is the thematic thing in the deck too. So she's a cool unit.
Yeah, and a deck of that is controversial with many people. No one has any issues with the Sacral Priest. It's pretty beloved. All right, my honorable mention, I'm just going to give just kind of an alternative unit, one that isn't that powerful all the time, but if you ever just play around it and use it, it can be super fun, which is the Guild Sniper. We talk a lot about the studded out machinist, but if you do all the moto boots and hand cannon on a sniper, you can have a really fun game, and it can be super powerful too, especially against decks that are not really good at tricks themselves. Just being a mobile sniper with that attacks for 4 if you're Vlox or attacks for 3 at the sniper is really fun.
Yeah, snipers are a bit underrated. Last time I played Prophet in the league, we had Phil First Cloaks, and snipers were the MVP of maybe both games, but definitely the game that Prophet was playing the Cloaks. He used snipers with moto boots and with hand cannon, and it was impressive.
Yeah, they're great, and Vlox copying them just feels awesome. All right, let's do a recap here. We've got Aaron, who went first, taking that Magcog, the Wayward Rogue, the Scavenger, the Ice Golem, Tentacle Mutant, Horror Mutant, Glory Caller, ripped away from my team, unfortunately. Horde Slinger, Undead Archer, Wrench Rat, and the honorable mention of a Blast Forge Cog. Then we got Jexic over with an Oathsworn, Mind Witch, Citadel Advisor, Luminous Scout, Tundra Fighter, Vine Mancer, True Seeker, Airy Steward, Guild Machinist, Ember Guard, and then honorable mention of Sacral Priest. Jexic, I feel like your second half really went just like some of the best units in the game.
It was my favorite stuff, and then it was just like, what's really core to the gameplay of a lot of these factions?
Yeah.
And
Surprised you didn't go with a Citadel Knight in there at all.
Royal Warrior, toss that in there too.
All right, and then mine, clearly the best. We got the Horde Clinger, Wolfsbane Brute, Bugbiter, Rhinoceros, Arbiter of Justice, Smasher, Royal Guardian, Eager Adventurer, Enigma Sage, and Frost Shaman with an honorable mention of the Guild Sniper.
Obviously, a ton of units that we didn't get to pick. There's only 33 that got picked, so I've still had like 10 to 15 left on my list of ones that I think are super fun, super good units.
Tundra Charger, Tundra Charger, Tundra Charger.
No Tundra Chargers at all, actually. It is a fun one in deck building, especially with the clingers, I find, but not one that made my list.
Talking about what I picked, there was a world where I was thinking of just picking every unit that mentions the special symbol, so going like with Deceivers and Devout Cultists, and in addition to the Airy Steward and some of the other ones I picked, but I thought that might be a little too silly.
I think you should have picked Devout Cultists just to see the reaction.
Yeah, that's my favorite unit, guys. It's so fun.
I also was thinking, like, what is my favorite commons? Like, what faction has my favorite commons in it? My favorite common suite? There's so many good ones. Vargoth, Cave Goblins.
Forge has a good one.
Forged was up there for me too. Filth is really good.
And we had 2 from the Eternal Council too, but you would never say for all 4, because Mind Knights, when I was doing the streams, I kept saying like, well, this isn't good in this matchup because of this reason. Like on paper, it seems like it should be fine, but there's like something that almost every faction can do to nullify it.
Yeah. Talk about one that when they were just previewed, people were like, oh my god, this is OP, and it's become a just like totally meh unit. Although I love it and I love playing around it, but I probably do that too much and to my detriment.
But let us know what list you think is the best. We'll have a poll up, when we release this. And make sure to vote for which one you like. Tell us if there's units we missed or should have added, or if there's units that you think shouldn't be on here. Like you think Bean picked some bad units, you let him know. And
Let me know, and then I'll come at you with a knife.
Well, Bean, we appreciate you being on.
Thanks, guys. This is fun as always.
And we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. This has been Discard for Magic.